Hi, my name is Brianna Redondo, and I'm going to be discussing over the case for this course, Business Ethics 3308, CRN number 30151. So from this case, we have learned a bunch of important details, going over a company who leaked personal privacy from the passwords of the company. From this, we've seen that management did not communicate effectively through their employees the implementations of what procedures were supposed to be processed when finding private information. The lack of security protocol is one of the main issues that we see here, and the lack of accountability, because people just seem to pass around the blame as it went from starting from Howard to Linda not taking prioritization in it, thus going into Amy and then Dan. This affects multiple parties, but we will only discuss the stakeholders and the global community. So as a global community, they honestly lost a lot of trust in the company. They had unauthorized users' knowledge from the employees. From this, people are more likely to try to hack the computer's resources. This honestly shine a public spotlight on the company, which is really negative. The distrust in the company and their reputation is slightly going to be tainted now. Employees can now be even targets. This is just how far that the situation can go, just from the lack of responsibility and procedure-wise. This demonstrates the ethical issue because a lot of secrecy was going on. Amy taking photos of private information and thus sharing it to the public. Morally wise as well, because Linda is expected to lead as an example to others, although she took prioritization in her friendships, the relationship status that she had with the employees. This honestly made it difficult for her to do her job and take the duties and responsibilities seriously into account. So I want to talk about another issue ethically, which is going to be the discrimination against women employees with stereotypic responsibilities. And when it came to Amy, because Dan did, I want to call it harassment actually, saying that she didn't take her responsibilities seriously as being a mother, saying that her family came before her work, but honestly, it could go either way with men or women. So just to say that it's a women kind of situation is really unethical. So as a stakeholder, they had loss of trust, decline in investment. They had a lot of leave of other stakeholders, stock prices dropping, the ethical commission investigation that honestly did a call of action. I feel as though from this that the company does in fact need to bounce back and place in a procedure roll call for situations such as this type. When security measures are not taken seriously, or people who are placed in wrongful positions of this type of responsibility, they need to do serious background checks, not just background checks, but like interviews. Even though if it's within the company, they need to still do interviews to conduct in order to find the right people for these right and important jobs. I would also say that for these people taking vacation, they should have handled all of this, all of their workload beforehand, and not just last minute the day before they are to head off to vacation. They have obligations that need to be conducted and fulfilled on their part. I would also have to say that when creating teams, it should have been more detailed when picking the people to go along with it, because as you can see, Amy and Dan did have their internal trust issues and trouble altogether. Amy was supposed to be loyal and honest to her team, and she went behind their back and tried to take credit for Howard's work to try to move herself into a different team, when it should have just been open and honesty from the get-go in order to get where she was trying to go, even if it didn't take her there. she was expected to um, she was expected to respect the privacy and the intellectual property of the company's passwords, although she failed upon that. And I would say certain consequences are needed to be met in order to prevent this from ever happening again, so other people learn that if you do so and so, then XYZ is going to happen. As for Dan, he is expected to look after the company's interests. So now, from the loss and damage of the league, he's expected to find the source of where things went wrong and to develop and implement the prevention status in order to prevent this from ever happening again. So I would say, as a conclusion in what should have happened, Howard should have firstly, it all started with him, he should have firstly been honest and already spoke up whenever he saw the company's passwords and turned them in, instead of waiting days from that. Even though it landed on Linda, she should have took prioritization in it and addressed it immediately instead of waiting till the last minute to try to do something about it. And then with Amy, she should have been honest about her actions and never have taken pictures of the private information, thus to where we are today. And Dan, on his part, he should have already had procedures for this kind of protocols. And I believe that's why everybody was just kind of like in a loop of where to go. They didn't know what exactly to do because they never dealt with this kind of situation before. So from this, I say that it all begins with the upper management and taking actions of what to do properly from whatever situation may occur. And that concludes my presentation, and thank you so much.